The morning my son told me to sign the house over to him, I was standing at the kitchen window watching the neighbor's dog dig up the flower bed I'd planted the spring after my wife passed. I didn't turn around right away. I just watched that dog work, methodical and unbothered, and I thought about how Miriam had spent 3 weekends getting those bulbs in the ground. Tulips mostly, some daffodils along the border. She said she wanted something to look forward to in April. She never saw them bloom. Dad, are you even listening? I turned around then. My son was sitting at my kitchen table with his arms crossed, and his wife was standing behind him the way she always did when they'd rehearsed something together. She had this look on her face, patient but tight around the eyes. The way you look when you've been waiting a long time and you're tired of waiting but you're trying not to show it. I'm listening, I said. The house needs to be in our names. He said it like it was already decided, like we were just handling paperwork. You're 68 years old. If something happens to you, we don't want to deal with probate. It's better for everyone. His wife nodded. She was always nodding. I pulled out the chair across from him and sat down. I'd built that table 32 years ago in the garage out of white oak I'd milled myself. My son used to hand me tools when he was small. He'd call the mallet the big hammer, and I'd correct him. Every time, and he'd laugh. Better for everyone, I repeated. It's just practical, Dad. We live here now. We pay for things. And that was true, in a way. They'd moved in 14 months before, after my son's contracting business hit a rough patch. He said it would be 6 months, maybe 8. I didn't push back. He was my boy. His wife was 4 months pregnant at the time, and they needed somewhere stable. I gave them the master bedroom because it had its own bath, and I figured that would matter once the baby came. What I hadn't counted on, what I hadn't let myself count on, because I didn't want to think that way about my own son, was how fast the shape of things would shift. It started small, the way things do. They rearranged the living room without asking. His wife didn't like where I'd put the couch, and one afternoon I came back from my walk and everything had been moved. My armchair, the one I've had for 20 years, the one that still smells faintly like pipe tobacco from an era when I still smoked, was pushed into the corner by the bookshelf like it belonged to a different room. Then they put a lock on the spare bedroom. Their office, they said. I'd been using that room for my drafting table. I do woodworking, always have, and I keep my plans and sketches in there. They moved my things to the garage without asking, stacked the drawings in a box that got damp over winter. I didn't say anything. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I was being flexible. By month 9, my son's wife was doing the grocery shopping and charging half the bills to a shared account she'd opened and asked me to contribute to. I didn't think much of it. Food costs money. Utilities cost money. The baby had arrived by then, a little girl with her father's forehead, and I loved her without reservation from the first moment I held her. So I contributed to the account. More than my share, if I'm being honest with myself, but I didn't keep a tally. Month 11, they hired a cleaner who came on Thursdays. They added her fee to the shared account. Month 12, they added a streaming package and a gym membership. Month 13, my son told me he thought we should formalize the arrangement. By that, he meant a monthly payment from me for what he called household costs. $800. He had a spreadsheet. I looked at the spreadsheet for a long time. Then I looked at my son, and I tried to find the 8-year-old who used to hand me that mallet and call it the big hammer. He was in there somewhere. I had to believe that. This is my house, I said, quiet as I could manage. Dad, we contribute a lot here. Claudine does everything for this household. She manages the baby, the shopping, the scheduling. I understand what she does. And you're retired. We're not. It's just fair. Fair. He used that word the way young people use it sometimes. Like fairness is a calculation they've already done and arrived at on their own behalf. I didn't argue. I said I'd think about it. I thought about it for exactly 1 week. Then I called my attorney. His name is Bernard Ossi. Bernie to me. And I've known him for 15 years. He did the closing when I bought this property, and he helped me set up Miriam's estate when she passed. He's methodical and calm, and he doesn't waste words. When I sat down across from him and told him everything, he listened with his hands folded on the desk and didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he said, "What do you want to do?" "I want to know my options," I said. He laid them out. All of them, and I listened the way I used to listen when I was an apprentice and the old men who knew things were talking. The meeting lasted 2 hours. I didn't tell my son about it. I didn't tell anyone. I went home, made a pot of coffee, and sat in my armchair in the corner where they'd pushed it, and I looked at the room that used to be mine. I want to be clear about something. This isn't a story about revenge. I've heard people use that word for situations like this, and it always feels wrong to me, like they're describing a house fire as a campfire. What I felt wasn't hot. It wasn't rage. It was something closer to grief, actually. Grief for a version of my son I kept hoping I'd see again, and a slow, steady clarity about what I needed to do. The clarity was this: I had built this house. I had paid it off. I had raised my family inside it, and buried my wife out of it, and planted tulips in the yard to honor her memory. The house wasn't just an asset. It was the remaining physical fact of my life, and I was not going to sign it over to anyone. But I was also not going to fight. Not the way they might expect me to fight. 3 weeks after my meeting with Bernie, I called him back. "Let's do the trust," I said. We set it up as an irrevocable charitable remainder trust. The house would go into the trust. During my lifetime, I would retain the right to live in it. That was written in explicitly, unambiguously, in language Bernie made certain left no room for interpretation. After I was gone, the proceeds from the eventual sale would be divided between a veterans support organization I'd been donating to for years and a small literacy foundation that Miriam had volunteered with before she got sick. My son and his wife would receive nothing from the house. Not because I hated them, but because you cannot give to people who have already decided to take. Bernie filed everything. We didn't make noise about it. I didn't make announcements at dinner. I just signed where he told me to sign, and the deed changed, and the house became something they could not touch without my consent and could not inherit. Then I did one more thing. I called a real estate attorney, a different one my son didn't know, and asked her about a rental property I'd been sitting on for 12 years. A small house about 40 minutes east in a quiet part of the county that I'd been renting to a retired school teacher. She'd been there a long time and she was a good tenant, but she'd told me the year before she was thinking of moving closer to her daughter. I'd been holding on to the property without knowing quite why. Now I knew why. The school teacher moved in February. I listed the rental in March. It sold in 11 days. I didn't tell my son about the rental property either. It hadn't come up. He assumed, I think, that I was living month to month on my pension and Social Security. People make assumptions when they think they know the whole picture. With the proceeds from the sale, I put a deposit on a small place 22 minutes away. A 2-bedroom cottage on a corner lot that needed work, which suited me fine because working is how I think. It had a detached workshop in the back that someone had used for ceramics. I had plans for it. I signed the lease in April and didn't say anything to my son. In May, I told him. We were eating dinner, all of us, the 4 of us, and the baby in her little seat, and there was some conversation about the shared account and whether I was going to continue contributing now that my son had taken on a new contract job. I listened to the conversation for a while. Then I set down my fork. "I won't be contributing to the account going forward," I said, "because I'm moving out at the end of the month." His wife stopped chewing. "Moving out," my son said. Not a question, just the 2 words. "I've got a place. It needs some work, but I like it. Good workshop space. The silence in that kitchen, the particular quality of it, I won't forget it. It wasn't comfortable silence. It was the silence of people recalculating. "What about the house?" his wife said finally. "What about it? You said, we've been here for over a year. We've been contributing to a shared account for shared expenses," I said. "Which is what you do anywhere you rented." "We're not renters," my son said. "This is family." "It is," I agreed. "And I love you. And I love that little girl. But this is also my house, and it's going to stay my house, Dad." He leaned forward. "We've been here. We've put time into this place." "Claudine has. The house is in a trust," I said. "Has been since March. It's not transferable. The documentation is filed. I talked to Bernard Ossi. You can call him." Another silence, different quality this time. "A trust," his wife said. "Charitable remainder. After I'm gone, it goes to 2 organizations. I'll give you the names if you'd like them." My son looked at the table. He looked at his wife. He looked somewhere between angry and something else. Something I hadn't seen on his face since he was a teenager and realized he'd miscalculated something badly. "You're serious," he said. "I am. You're going to walk away?" From us? From your granddaughter? I looked at the baby then. She was doing what babies do, completely indifferent to the adults and their arrangements, pulling at the little toy clipped to her seat. I'm moving 22 minutes away, I said. I'll see her whenever you want me to. I'd like to see her every week if that works. I'd like to teach her things when she's old enough. I have a lot to teach. I picked my fork back up. I'm not walking away from anything, I'm just going home. The next few weeks were tense in the way that things are when people are adjusting to a reality they didn't choose. My son called twice. Both times he started by being reasonable and slid gradually towards something more pressured, and both times I let him talk, and both times I said the same thing. I love you. The decision is made. His wife didn't call. I moved my armchair out first. I put it in the truck myself on a Saturday morning, and I drove it to the cottage and set it in the living room by the window that looks out at the side yard. There's a redbud tree just coming into leaf. Come April, it'll be something. The workshop took me most of June to set up properly. I've been building again. A blanket chest for the baby, oak with hand-cut dovetails, the kind of thing that'll last longer than I will. That feels right to me. Leaving things behind that are solid, that were made with care, that people can use. My son brought the baby over 2 weeks after I moved out. He called first, which felt like something. We sat on the back porch while the baby slept in the stroller, and we didn't talk about the house or the trust or any of it. We talked about his new project, commercial renovation, decent money, and about the baby's newest accomplishment, which was grabbing her own feet and appearing deeply satisfied with this discovery. Before he left, he stood on the porch for a moment with his hands in I didn't think you'd actually do it, he said. I thought about that for a second. I know, I said. Mom would have done the same thing, wouldn't she? It wasn't really a question. He knew the answer. She would have been gentler about it, I said. But yes, he nodded, got in the car, drove away. I stood there and watched the taillights disappear at the end of the road, and then I went back inside and put the kettle on and sat down in the chair by the window. The redbud tree was dark against the evening sky, just the shape of it, branches reaching without apology in every direction. Miriam would have liked this place, I think. It's smaller than what we had, but the light in the morning is something. And the garden out front is overgrown but salvageable. Somebody planted bulbs along the front walk, probably years ago, and I don't know what they are yet. I guess I'll find out in April.